Hey everybody, it's Nate here from Nate's Tennis Comeback, where I help you improve your game by using a ball machine. Today we're going to be doing a updated review on the Slinger Bag. I've been using the Slinger Bag for about a year and wanted to give an updated review from this one that I did after owning it for a few months. So today I'm going to be sharing the pros and cons of the Slinger Bag after using it for a year, sharing with you how I actually use it the most often. Also wanted to give some insight on how you can actually improve your game by using a ball machine and some of the areas I see people going wrong. And lastly, wanted to share, would I buy this again, or would I take my money and buy a different machine after having this amount of use? So let's dive in. So let's start with the cons of the Slinger Bag first. There are two things that have stood out to me after I've been using it for about a year. One, it's very hard to train a specific type of volley. Now, I've made a couple of videos on Slinger Bag drills to improve your volleys, and you guys can check them out on my channel. One thing that I have found very hard to do is you can't really replicate that hard, flat shot that goes right at you and practice putting those volleys away. Obviously, this is because the Slinger Bag does not allow you to shoot out a flat ball. It's only topspin, which for the most part is not a big deal. But this is a specific shot that I have found where it is a big deal. It makes it kind of impossible to replicate that shot. Now, this might not be a big deal for most players, but for myself, I do come up against that scenario very often. A 5.0 NTRP and about an 8.5 UTR. So in my matches, that's a very critical shot for me. So that's been the first big downside for me. The second downside that I see with this machine is I just don't find myself setting it up at the opposing baseline really ever. In the first couple times I took it out, I put it on the baseline and was testing out, if you put it all on max and what does that shot look like? And even as I've messed with it over the last year, I never really find a good reason to set it up at the baseline and practice shots from that depth. Now, the real downside to that is you don't get the same amount of reaction time because the ball is always going to be closer to you if you're putting the ball at the net where that's where I put it the majority of the time. If you check some of the other videos I posted, you'll see it's generally always there. Now, this isn't a huge drawback, but it is something to note because I was a little bit surprised that I never actually put it at the baseline. I always found it easier to put it on the same side of the net as me, and that's where I would get the most value from, which I'll actually touch on a little bit later. All right, so let's talk about some of the pros that the Slinger Bag has. After using it for a year, here are some of the things that stand out. One, it's incredibly easy to get around. This is what drew me to it initially. With it being kind of replicating a suitcase, it was very easy to get it on and off court. Whether you have to walk, you're crossing a parking lot, you got to go up a hill, you got to get over gravel. It doesn't matter. The ball machine is really easy to move around, which was a big deal because the last machine that I had was not the case. It was super heavy. The wheels weren't nice. It was almost embarrassing to drag this thing on court. But now with the Slinger Bag, I don't have any of those problems. So there's no reason to not get out there. Also, this thing holds everything that I need. The only thing I bring with me when I go to the court is the Slinger Bag and my ball hopper with the tennis balls. I don't have to bring another bag for my shoes, my rackets, water, whatever. It all fits right into the Slinger Bag itself. The compartments are super nice and everything fits right in there, and it doesn't make it bulky or added weight where I don't feel like I can pick it up anymore. So really easy to get around. The second pro I wanted to mention is something that I noticed initially, and it has still stood out to me as a really big pro for the Slinger Bag. That's how easy it is to set this up. Um, you will spend time playing with the settings, figuring out how to recreate certain shots or just messing around with it, like I did. Now, if you just want to figure out how other people are using the machine, there are lots of people out there that post some really great drills. I have some on my channel if you're interested. But for me, the amount of time that I take to set up the machine on a normal practice session is very minimal. Once I learned where to put the machine, that was helpful. but also knowing that I have to set the settings every time, this could be an issue. But it turns out it's very easy to get this going. Put it on the place of the court where I want it to be, and then I'm only really tweaking one or two dials, and then I'm good to go. Which means if I'm practicing with the machine for an hour and a half, maybe I spend 5 minutes setting it up between the different drills that I'm doing. So for me, that's not a big amount of time. Most of my time is spent hitting balls, which is great. Now, obviously, the reason I keep using the slinger bag is because I'm able to actually improve my game by using this. Now, I see a lot of people have obviously bought the slinger bag. It's a great tool. It's become very popular. But here's something I need everyone to be aware of. Just using a ball machine will not improve your game. A lot of people think you can just throw 100 balls in there, go to the baseline, hit 100 forehands without stopping, and your forehand is going to improve. This is incorrect, and it's actually going to make you a worse player in the long run if that's your approach. There's a lot of reasons to have the ball machine. It's great exercise. It's just a lot of fun to go mess around with it. But if you're serious about improving your game, you have to understand a couple key things. One, you have to have focus on what you're improving. If you want to improve your forehand, that's not focused enough. What a ball machine is really good for, obviously, is just shooting out a shot consistently, allowing you to practice. What I encourage everyone to do is have a really narrow focus on what you're trying to improve. Instead of improving your forehand, let's improve your follow through on your forehand. And let's hit a number of balls just focusing on that follow through. Improving little aspects of that is how you change your stroke, not just going out there and hitting 100 balls at a time. Now, the slinger bag makes it really easy to do that because the low speed settings that this machine has makes it really easy to replicate those soft toss drills that you'll see coaches do, as well as taking it up a notch to medium pace shots. These type of shots is how you want to practice, especially if you're a beginner and you're just learning your technique, or if you're more advanced like myself and you're really focusing on specific areas of your technique. You don't want to be hitting a ball that's coming at you 50 miles an hour. You're not going to be able to make those improvements. So I find the low speed settings that still produce good topspin to be very advantageous when you're looking to actually improve your game. Now, if you have this machine or any ball machine and you are also serious about wanting to improve your game using it, check the links in the description and make sure you follow along with my channel as I continue to share tips on how to do that. Also, sign up for the email list where I send out an email about once a week or once every 2 weeks, just sending tips on how to actually improve your game. A lot of people I see make some big mistakes, and I look to try and help those people identify what those mistakes are and actually get the most out of your machine. And would love to have you join that. So check that link in the description. So after using this machine for a year, there are definitely more pros than cons when looking at the slinger bag. And here's what I think. If I were to buy this machine again, it would be because my budget was about $1,000 or less. If that's where your budget is, I highly recommend the slinger bag. And if that was my budget, I would be buying this machine again, hands down. Now, if your budget is a little bit bigger than that, if you got about $1,500 or so or more to throw at a ball machine, then I would not be looking at the slinger bag. I would then be looking at machines like the Lobster Elite Liberty or Spin Shot or the Proton from Hydrogen Sports. The Proton is probably the newest ball machine on the market, and I think it's going to make some big waves. I can't wait to get my hands on that machine. But if your budget is on the lower end, this is absolutely the way to go. Now, if you are in the market for a ball machine, check the description again. I've got the Ball Machine Buyer's Guide, which is a free PDF that I created to help you figure out what machine is necessary. A lot of the times, it comes down to budget and what functionality you think is absolutely critical. For example, I have found that it would be very nice to have a machine where you could program drills into it and have it save to make it easy to get those drills started. Now, the machines that have that are pretty expensive. So you've got to figure out, is that necessary or not, but I can't choose that for you. So drop a comment on this video. Let me know what you think about my opinion on the machine. What has your experience been with the ball machine? Would you buy this again? And if you have questions on how to actually improve your game, shoot me an email, drop me a comment. I hope I can talk to you guys soon.